Hi everyone, I'm going to talk a little bit about libido in perimenopause and menopause. Declining libido, more specifically, is a fairly common symptom. It doesn't just happen in perimenopause and menopause, it can happen at any time, but it's particularly noticeable at this time. And the reason for this is there's normally multiple reasons. It can just be down to hormones, so it can be down to low estrogen, it can be down to low testosterone, it can be due to feeling unwell because you have hormonal chaos. And also it can be due to loads of other reasons that all collide at the same time. So it can be due to being in a relationship for a long time, having other stressful life events going on, having young children in the house, having all sorts of other things that might impact on whether or not you're interested in sex or not. And so it's important to look at the various aspects of it rather than just blaming everything on hormones. Now, using HRT can help, and I've definitely seen a lot of women who have a low libido and then they take HRT and then they feel much better and they feel better in every way and their libido returns and it's all fine, but others don't. And it's unpicking what of those women, what is it that is preventing the libido from returning? Sometimes it's literally just a negative feedback loop from painful sex. So even if you're on HRT, sometimes you can still have issues with vaginal dryness. That can make sex uncomfortable. That means that you don't then want it in the future and you have this negative feedback circulation. And just by using topical estrogens, lubricants, moisturizers, that can then prevent that negative feedback loop and that can sort things out. But otherwise, it really does require looking at things in a much more holistic way, looking at a relationship and looking at the rest of your life and seeing whether there is other things there that you can unpick that might possibly have a negative impact. So as normal and as common as it is, it's still very, it can still be very important to you to get your libido back. So Louise Boyce, who was on my podcast a few episodes ago, was talking about this very fact that just because it happens to so many women doesn't mean that it's not important and shouldn't be addressed. Using HRT can help, but it's not always a quick fix, particularly if you are using testosterone. So testosterone replacement for a low libido can take 3 to 6 months to start making any noticeable changes, and it needs monitoring carefully. Sometimes testosterone replacement can have the desired effect and more, which is why it's really important to make sure that you're using it within the recognised female physiological level. And that was just like what happened to Louise Boyce's friend. Do you feel like you've got a handle on symptoms? Do you feel like that they're under control?
I definitely feel that they are better. Even my husband was like, "You're a lot nicer now." Thank God. I'm not on any testosterone, and I wonder if I should be, because the libido has kind of like, it's not as what it was. Yeah. And I want it to be. I want to be horny. In fact, one of my friends, she's one of your patients.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you recently gave her testosterone and she went...
Me personally? Or...
No, yeah. She said
really?
That, because I started doing a podcast with you and she was like, "Oh my God, she gave me testosterone." And she said that she went from being completely like, kind of like, "The husband, don't come near me," to now she's like a walking erection. Within reason.
Maybe she should.
I was like, "Can you get me some of that, please?"
We aim to restore rather than numb.
Yeah, I mean, she probably did exaggerate a bit for, comedy value. We did have some wine. But she said it's really helped her.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's really helped her and it's made her like more focused as well. So I'm like, maybe that's what I need.
Testosterone is an interesting one. So it's female hormone, and although everybody associates it with,
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, so it's definitely a female hormone, and you lose testosterone throughout your adult life. It doesn't just fall off a cliff like your other hormones do in perimenopause and menopause. 5 years ago, we were saying, look, this is definitely a missing piece of the puzzle. It's the missing link. It helps with, and then things like get up and go, power, strength, joie de vivre, confidence, as well as libido, brain function. But we don't actually have the data to support that. We have data to support the fact that it helps restore libido. So you would be eligible. But we still don't quite know how it affects all of those other symptoms. Now, if you kind of extrapolate, so testosterone is a drug of abuse in the sports industry because it helps with laying down muscle, with performance. So you could extrapolate that if you lose your testosterone, then replacing it might restore that performance. Also, we know that in men who have their testosterone blocked with certain cancer treatments, they don't just lose their libido. They lose much more than just their libido. So I think it is an excellent hypothesis that it helps with lots of different things. And it doesn't surprise me that your friend said that it helped her with more than libido.
Yeah, her husband's thrilled.
Sex can become painful in perimenopause and menopause because estrogen affects the tissues and it affects the moisture and lubrication. And so if your tissues are thinner, your vulval and vaginal tissues are thinner, more friable, more easily damaged, they're more likely to to itch or to crack. And also, if you don't create the same lubrication during intercourse, that's going to cause even more friction and therefore pain and damage. So if you are finding that you feel like your vagina is dry, then using even over-the-counter lubricants and moisturizers can make a real difference. So testosterone has been proven to help with low libido in women, but it can still be quite hard to get hold of, especially on the NHS. There is no licensed female product available on the NHS at the moment. You have to be prescribed a male product, and some GPs are nervous about prescribing this product off label, quite understandably. When you go to prescribe it as a GP, a little red box flashes up and it's, are you really sure you want to prescribe this? This is for a woman. And it can be really scary for a doctor to go against what the computer says. So it can be hard to get on the NHS, and we hear of a lot of women who have kind of pushed back, especially if they're single, because why would you need a libido if you're single? That's one of the arguments that has been raised with patients, to name but a few. So there are it is still not necessarily an easy thing to get your hands on.
One of my followers said to me that her doctor said she couldn't have testosterone because it's a male hormone. And she was told by her friend to go back and say, actually, my marriage is on the rocks because I'm not giving my husband enough sex. Therefore, can I have testosterone now? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, wow, it's 1958, guys.
I know, it's amazing. And you hear about women who are refused testosterone because they are single.
Oh, my God.
I heard that somebody told me that. Somebody told me that was their experience just in this last week. So yeah,
boy, she's single, ready to mingle. Surely you'd need more sex drive. Definitely more than me. I'm watching Netflix.
That was her doctor's response. Yeah,
that's so triggering.
The more common story is for your libido to drop during perimenopause and menopause, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it can increase. And although it gets quite a lot of giggles, actually, it can be quite distressing to patients who experience that. We know that at least 50% of women have some sort of libido decline in the menopause, and many of them find it distressing and it puts pressure on relationships. We don't really know how many women have the opposite effect and have a kind of distressingly high libido, because we just have a serious lack of data about that as an entity in itself. But I know that this happens from the patients that come through my doors at my clinic. And it's an area where we really do need to put money and research into it, because it does affect lives and it does cause relationships to break down and the negative impacts of that. And we know that this can be the case from my chat with Stacey Dogood, who experienced exactly that. So do you think that it was the perimenopause that made you act on the meeting with your old school friend, or how?
100%.
100%. And I've not spoken about this before because I don't want to be the person going, well, this happened to me, so it must be happening to you. I would like to know the medical facts actually behind this. I want to know why, and I've spoken to lawyers and they see a lot of women, 45, 46, coming in and filing for divorce on the grounds of, having exactly as I've described. They've blown up their marriage, something's happened, they've shagged the tennis coach. That's a very obvious cliche, but you know why I'm using it as one. There's something has happened that they have wanted to blow up their entire family structure, dismantle the happiness of their family in pursuit of their own because of hormones. I'm convinced of it. What do you think?
Yes, I mean, I think you do see it a lot, and it's hard to know absolutely whether it is just the change in kind of where you are in your life, because perimenopause will always coincide with a kind of career progression, or children growing up a bit, or parents being older, or relationships being stagnant. So there will always, you could, so to extrapolate out and absolutely know that the only reason that something happened is because of hormones is really hard. But we also know that hormones play a big part in how women's brains work.
If perimenopause is the wild little sister and menopause is the grumpy grandma, right? The wild little sister just wants to go fucking balls to the wall mad. She's in her mini skirts. She's like lost weight. She's at Chiltern Firehouse. She thinks she's fabulous. She thinks she's 25 again. The libido spike, that's got to be hormonal.
And it probably libido is so multifactorial. So hormones definitely play a part, and so does everything else play a part. Like I said before, like relationships and where you are in your life. But the hormonal part, the relationship of the hormones with each other, probably plays a part. So some women will lose their estrogen before losing testosterone, and it could be that you have a higher proportion of testosterone that drives libido in some women. And the trouble with a high libido is people think, so if you're not in the know and it's not you've not experienced it, people can think it's quite a funny symptom. They're like, but it isn't.
Reader, it's not a funny symptom.
It can destroy marriages, in the same way that a low libido can destroy marriages. So it is definitely a phenomenon that we do see, not as much as low libido, but we definitely see it.
So that's quite interesting. I hadn't considered that before.
We hear quite a lot of negative stories about the impact of low libido, sometimes the impact of high libido on midlife as a result of perimenopause and menopause, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I have also spoken to women who have really embraced midlife and found that almost like the opposite's been true. So when I spoke to Lou Featherstone, she used it as an opportunity to completely reinvent herself and refound her sexuality and really kind of who she defines herself as today. So it doesn't all have to be doom and gloom. There is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. And I speak to lots of women who find that midlife can actually be the best part of their lives so far.
Accepting yourself is the biggest challenge ever. And I think, accepting the bits that you maybe wish were different but aren't, just that's sexy to somebody else, a confidence, how you hold yourself, how you feel inside reflects on the outside as well. I refused to go on date night. I was really proud and showed off about the fact that I wouldn't go on date night. I was like, if we need to go on a date night, then we're done and dusted. I'm not going to force ourselves to go on a date night and then force ourselves to have sex. I mean, what's the point? It's like Valentine's, right? Loads of us are like, stupid Valentine's. It's just commercial. I have completely done a 180. I now absolutely go on the date night. Absolutely send each other a bloody damn Valentine's card, because it's really easy to neglect each other and to take your finger off things, and pardon the pun intended. It's really easy to let these things slip and neglect each other in busy life, busy kids, don't feel like it, like feel dry and unsexy, and but if you take that time, like if we'd gone out on date night, my husband and I, would that have given us space to go, you know, you haven't shagged me for 6 months, we should make more effort. And you know, when you have sex and you haven't done it for ages, you're like, we're really good at this, we should do it more. You know, you have to kind of keep that up. And again, we're back to connection.
Yeah.
You know, that connection and that moment together is really powerful on loads of levels. It's ace to get laid. I mean, if you're good at it, or he's good at it, or she's good at it, we're not ruling anything out at this point. But I think you've got to make the effort, and it feels false somehow. But I think actually if we had made space for each other, we would have had this time to have these conversations and maybe make more effort. And if it takes Valentine's Day to bloody remind us that we need to make an effort with the people that we love, then maybe that's a good thing. So I'm all for Galentine's, but I'm also, it's a good reminder to remind the loved one that you do love them, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because it's just that your sex drive isn't just about whether you.
Oh, it's up here.
It's so multifactorial. It's what, you know, what relationship are you in? Are you in a new relationship? Are you in a relationship with somebody you've been in for 25 years? Have you got a house full of teenagers? Have you got an elderly parent living in a bedroom next door? So hormones play a part.
And I think masturbating makes you feel sexy. Like, it made me feel sexy again, and that wasn't linked to being made to feel sexy by somebody else. This was making myself feel sexy, and then in turn that makes me want to have sex with other people because I feel sexy. And it's almost like, you know, it's a muscle, right? You know, and yes, it's dry and it hurts, it can hurt,
but there are things that we can do about that.
There's things we can do about that. There's many things you can do about that. But starting with yourself and feeling worthy of it and feeling sexy has got to start with you. Because no one, you know, I had to acknowledge in the middle of doing a talk once, I was saying, you know, my husband hadn't shagged me, which is terrible. I really always try to be respectful of my husband, because actually what I realised while doing this talk was I went to bed in a tracksuit for 10 years. So it was very easy for me to blame him for neglecting me. But actually, in the middle of a talk, I went, I went to bed in a tracksuit for 10 years. That probably wasn't a come hither message. And the whole room laughed. And I was like, that's true. I did.
Yeah.
I scuttled around getting dressed in the dark, went to bed in a whole tracksuit.
Why did you wear a tracksuit to bed?
I don't know. Because I don't think I felt sexy. I wasn't lying there going, God, I wish he'd sleep with me. I was fine. We just literally neglected it, and I just thought, oh well, you know, maybe I've had enough sex before I married him. It's gonna be average out till I die. But now I've fallen in love again, and I have another chapter and another chance. But it's got to start with you. Feel sexy for yourself. You know, I encourage people to take pictures of themselves naked, which just like, you know, it fills women with horror. But, you know, do some sexy poses, take some nudes, but just for yourself. You know, don't send them to anyone. Practice a sexy pose, see how it feels. Get some nice underwear for yourself, you know, and just see how it feels.
Surround yourself with people that make you feel good.
Yeah. And, you know, don't think everybody's leaping around in crotchless knickers swinging from a pole having sexy sex all the time. And most of us are just fumbling through life.
If any of these ladies' experiences or situations resonate with you, then please do watch the full episode that is out on YouTube and Spotify. And if you're looking for more information about menopause, libido, testosterone, other types of HRT, anything to do with perimenopause and menopause, then I have lots of information on my Instagram, which is Dr_Naomi Potter, and also on my clinic website, which is menopausecare.co.uk.